Hey guys, this is a video for anyone attempting Solo or Solo Flawless Duality dungeon on a hunter during Season of the Haunted. Here is the build and some tips and tricks that helped me navigate the dungeon safely and ultimately led to the Solo Flawless completion. First off, it's best to explain how not to die. So the build we are showcasing today is based around the Assassin's Cowl exotic helmet. For those that don't know what this helmet does, powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishes and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. Okay, so this ability in itself is ridiculously strong in PvE, and when you combine it with the new Solar 3.0 fragments and this season's artifact mod, Classy Restoration, you will be extremely tough to kill. So let's take a look at how it comes together, and then we can break down each encounter into what weapons and strategies work best. So for every encounter in this dungeon, I use the same aspects and fragments for Solar Hunter. In the first two encounters, I ran Blade Barrage for boss damage, and on the final encounter, I used Deadshot Golden Gun to quickly dispose of Bellkeepers. So let's start with the fragments and aspects. So for aspects, I use Knock 'em Down. While Radiant, final blows with Throwing Knife fully refund your melee energy. And On Your Mark, precision final blows grant you and your allies increased weapon handling. Activating class ability immediately grants maximum stacks of On Your Mark. Now the On Your Mark aspect does not really affect the gameplay too much here, but we are using it instead of Gunpowder Gamble, as that one can be a little bit dangerous. You throw that pipe bomb and you can kill yourself. So we're not using that one, so we're going to use On Your Mark instead. And for fragments, we use Ember of Torches, Ember of Tempering, Ember of Searing, Ember of Singeing, and Ember of Solace. The most important one, I would say, would be Ember of Torches. Powered melee attacks make you and nearby allies radiant. So the way this plays out is whenever possible, you want to weaken an enemy, and using your Throwing Knife to finish them off. The Throwing Knife kill makes you radiant from Ember of Torches. Then Knock 'em Down perk fully refunds your Throwing Knife since you're radiant, and you get all your health back and go invisible from Assassin's Cowl. Technically, you can use any Throwing Knife, but I much prefer Knife Trick as it requires much less precision and still does more than enough damage to finish a weakened enemy. As for Grenade, you can use any grenade that you feel comfortable with. I like running solar or thermite grenades. I would advise against using healing grenades as the build has more than enough healing. You also want to use Gambler's Dodge, as you'll get full melee energy back if you Gambler's Dodge near an enemy, and melees are very important. The next part of the build amps up the recharge rate of abilities and provides yet another way to heal. This is, of course, running mods on our armor. So the mods that I use are Melee Wellmaker. We are getting a lot of powered melee kills, so it's only natural that we should generate a solar well. Elemental Armaments or Ordnance. So if you're using a solar energy weapon, I would go with Armaments. Otherwise, go with the Ordnance for the grenade kill. For this dungeon in particular, I always had a solar energy, so I went with Armaments. So now we're making tons of wells. Let's use them to give us healing and damage buffs. So for healing, we want to run a Well of Life mod. And for extra damage, we run an Elemental Charge to convert the well into Charge with Light, and also a High Energy Fire mod. The final mod is the Seasonal Artifact mod, Classy Restoration. The way we use our dodge is if the Throwing Knife is on cooldown, use a Gambler's Dodge near an enemy to fully restore the melee energy. But since the melee is up more often than on cooldown, you can use the dodge as like a get out of jail card that will replenish your health in a pinch. It's nice to have, but not vital, since there are so many ways to heal with this build. It is quite important to have as much resilience as possible, so aim for 100 resilience and high mobility. D2 Armor Picker is a fantastic website that can help you min-max your armor stats. I highly recommend using it, and we'll link it in the description. Okay, so on to the encounters. First up, this little tip on making your way to the first encounter room. If you activate this bell, and then instead of going left and doing another set of bells, you can simply just drop straight down to the exit. It saves about a minute, but can be handy if you need to run the dungeon multiple times. Right, in the first encounter, we use Lament for boss damage and a Glaive for dealing efficiently with divisions. I also use a kinetic SMG to trickle the health of Bellkeepers so they can be easily finished off by a powered melee. I can't stress how important this is for dealing with Bellkeepers in any encounter. If possible, you always want to finish them with a powered melee or a precision final blow to make sure their backpacks are not left on the ground. The number one cause of death in this dungeon is not the boss or any enemy, it's the architects and those damn backpacks. So if you do see one on the floor, keep shooting it so it explodes at a safe distance. Back to the first encounter, and another tip I would like to share is how to get a bit more boss damage time on the runs. To do this, when you first enter the Nightmare Realm, you will want to find both standard bearers and kill them. However, only pick up one standard essence. Leave the Nightmare Realm and deposit the essence. After entering the room and killing the visions in the Nightmare Realm, quickly kill the Bellkeepers and run to the second essence room and pick it up, but do not kill the standard bearer in this room. Exit the Nightmare Realm and continue with depositing the second essence. Now when you go into the Nightmare Realm after clearing the visions, you will see the standard bearer also in this room or closer to the exit. Killing him here will grant extra time for boss damage. This encounter is the most tedious. With really good DPS, it can be a 3-phase, but more often than not, it will be a 4-phase with Lament and Blade Barrage. Try to always have Radiant up by using your powered melee on Centurions for extra Lament damage. On to the second encounter. I always use Stompies for platforming and feel more comfortable making jumps in third person, and for this reason I'm going to keep Lament on here. This is personal preference, so if you prefer shorter jumps and first person, then you do you. There is one big jump that I struggle to make without Stompies, so this is where I would suggest putting them on. In the second encounter, we are going to swap up the weapons a little bit to help us deal with the multiple phalanxes in the Nightmare Realm. The trick to completing this encounter is killing these guys efficiently and giving us plenty of time to make it to the exit bell. I have found Ariana's Vow to be extremely effective at doing this job, but you may also prefer Arbalest or Xenophage. My loadout was Submission, Ariana's, and Cataclysm Linear Fusion Rifle. You should change your helmet and boot mods to Linear Fusion Finder and Scavengers, but the rest of the build stays the same. One trick I was told in my chat was when I was doing this run that the Nightmare Bell Keepers always spawn on the opposite side that the bell is rung in the normal realm. With this information, you should never have to doubt where the Bell Keepers are, and you should always shoot the bell furthest away from the door you're going into. Even if there is no bell that is furthest away, you can just go in and kill the Bell Keepers only, then come straight back out and more will spawn. This is the best tip I can provide for this encounter. Save your super and heavy for boss damage, but take your time and don't get within their booping range. There is no rush to kill the bosses in this room. After this encounter is done, as before, if you feel more comfortable jumping with stompies, put these on now. There comes a part after exiting the Nightmare Realm where you will see ads on the ledges to the right. Don't jump over straight away as they can and will try to boop you off. It's much easier to take them out from a distance with a scout or sniper rifle. Final encounter, and my loadout of choice is Succession Sniper. A Thoughtless would also be a good choice. The Callus Mini tool, preferably with Incandescent perk, and Lament. Here we change our super from Blade Barrage to Deadshot. This is for efficiently dealing with Bellkeepers in the Keitel Nightmare Realm. Change the Finder and Scavenger mods to Sword, Finder, and Scavenger. The game plan is very similar in this room. To begin, you want to eliminate all Bellkeepers by way of throwing knife or critical hit on the backpack. No backpacks on the ground means less to worry about. Once you have all the bells available, look at the symbols. If the two symbols are adjacent to each other, stand on one of the platforms and shoot the bell to teleport in. Here I use an SMG to weaken the Scion and then use a finisher to go invisible. If you time this correctly, you can avoid the slow missiles from the Colossus. Use this invis time to line up a shot on the adjacent Scion if it's the correct standard bearer. Don't jump to the middle platform straight away. You can line up some shots on the Bellkeeper backpacks from the perch. If they don't immediately die, then jump down away from them so they don't boop you off, and then go up and throwing knife them. Use this invis time to take out the other two Bellkeepers and retrieve the second standard. It's always a good idea to jump to retrieve the second standard while you are invisible so the Colossus's slow missiles don't hit you. You can avoid killing the Colossus entirely in this room. Rinse and repeat a second time. If the symbols are not on adjacent platforms, there is no shame in only doing one standard at a time. If you do have time to get the other, then do so, but you never want to feel like you're in a big rush. When all four symbols have been deposited, you can shoot a chain link to teleport to the boss Nightmare Realm. I recommend not shooting any bell after shooting the chain, as it will spawn additional standard bearer snipers. As soon as you teleport in, pop the golden gun and shoot one of the Bellkeepers ahead. Use a powered melee throwing knife to finish it off and shoot the other one. You can now one-shot the Bellkeepers as you have radiance from the powered melee kill. Take a look where Keitel is headed and pop the two Bellkeepers where she is headed. If you have time, turn around and pop the other remaining two Bellkeepers, but if not, don't worry, you can snipe them after a bell damage phase has ended. Shoot the bell when Keitel is close and use Lament charged attack to damage the boss. Use the non-powered attack to build up enough charge for the next charge attack and dodge back to replenish your melee, heal with Classy Contender, and get more radiant buff from the throwing knife. Rinse and repeat this on each bell and you should be looking at a 3 or 4 phase boss kill. I hope you found this video helpful. I really believe the Architects and those Bellkeeper backpacks are the only real dangers in this dungeon, if you set yourself up with the right mods, fragments, aspects, and exotic. Good luck, and I hope you all get that sweet Solo Flawless emblem.